just put the plaster on just with my hands, and then I'm gonna take my pretty clean, kind of scraped putty knife, and I'm just gonna go diagonal, blending it with the stuff that I've already smoothed out. I'm looking for inconsistencies in the depth, so any huge mounds or any big divots that are in the plaster. I'm gonna get a bunch of stuff on my putty knife. I'm just scraping it onto the bucket. And then I just go diagonally back and forth. I find that's the easiest method. If you kind of go straight across this way and then you try to pull back, sometimes the plaster will just kind of fall off the wall. So I think the reason that I use this diagonal pattern is to keep the plaster from pulling away from the lath or just falling off of the wall. And again, I just work my way all the way across. This plaster is still wet. You can see down here that I already smoothed. We did a trial where we let a patch of plaster dry, just like with this edge, and then dry completely and cure, so it was hard, to see if we could come back and just do wet plaster over top of it. For time management purposes, do not do that. You can do it, it's awful. It takes 10 times longer than just doing it wet, and you can still see a little bit of the line because you can't get a perfect blend like you're getting right now when the plaster is wet. So that is my advice. Don't do it. If you have to do it for some reason, it's, you know, you can blend the wet plaster into the dry, but I wouldn't recommend it. So again, just getting down in this corner here, pressing. This is relatively light. I'm not using a lot of pressure, and the mix is good. When the mix is too dry, it's very hard to do this, and you just wear yourself out really easily. So then I'm gonna take this guy, and again, just the edge. I'm gonna come along and just keep smoothing, and I'm gonna push into this corner where the rafter is, because I don't want the plaster peeling away from the edge when it dries. And so I'm making it very, very tight into the corner so that it adheres to the corner. And again, just scraping, still trying to get it smooth. You are gonna have buildup on your trowel. Just scrape that right off, come back. And again, just working with my regular arm motion. So nothing straight across or straight back or straight up and down. That doesn't seem to work with this particular trowel, and also it's more tiring. I just kind of go with the curve of my elbow, or like for these shorter things, like kind of like the articulation of my wrist. And you can see it getting smooth already, and then kind of the water gets pulled out of it, and that's what makes it shiny as it dries. Now, I keep scraping just because I really want not too much stuff on the trowel itself. And that helps, again, keep everything super smooth. And you won't have too many ridges, and you won't have like plaster like this kind of hanging out there. You just want to smooth all that down if you're trying to achieve the same look that we're achieving. And then you'll have some of these like little spaces here or holes. You can get like just a little bit on your trowel and you can fill that in. Also, with a trowel like this, the tip is so great. You know, I'm barely touching it. I'm just kind of moving the plaster around, and that'll fill in the gaps. This is scratch coat or base coat plaster. So this is the type of plaster that would go on the wall. If you were doing the regular type of plaster work, this would go on first, and you would kind of scratch it so that the second coat would adhere onto it. But this is the only coat that we use, the base coat. And so we basically put it on, even it out, and then smooth it for the finish, and that's it. So it looks white right now, it dries to a gray color, and then we'll be lime washing it. But this is gypsum plaster, it's not lime plaster. There's nothing mixed in it. It comes in a bag, we mixed it in water. So there's no horsehair in this or any other things to give it strength. It has strength on its own because it's a engineered product. And like I said, you'll get a little bit of kind of like slip if you do any pottery type of material that's on the edge of the trowel. That won't really hurt anything. Sometimes, you know, if you scrape that off, you can use it later to fill in really tiny holes. But if it leaves any residue, then I just scrape it off and I just keep going. And that's it.